So the vision for Numerai was this. The next Einstein should work in physics, not finance. But he should be using Numerai on the weekend. This is a picture of the desk of a person who works at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, and he's working on a mission to Jupiter's moon. It's called the Europa Clipper mission. Take a look at this. It's not a galaxy. It's actually a still from a video we made at Numerai. This NASA rocket scientist is actually also a Numerai data scientist. Numerai is letting him get us to Jupiter's moons, and it's also allowing him to contribute intelligence to the stock market.
We started in late 2015, and to date we have over 200,000 submissions, 50,000 stakes, and we've paid over $6 million out in payouts. All of this would not be possible without our incredible community of data scientists. It's truly amazing to see such a diverse and talented group of people come together and collaborate. Numerai Compute is a powerful tool that helps data scientists set up fully automated submission workflows in the cloud. The Compute CLI uses Terraform and Docker to deploy these models to AWS. It then creates a Lambda that listens for new data from Numerai. When new data is detected, the Lambda spins up the Docker container, downloads the new data, runs the model, uploads the predictions back to Numerai, and all of this for less than $1 a month in hosting fees. Staking is about rewarding data scientists for good performance. That's it. There shouldn't be a metagame. And so we set out to redesign staking from the ground up. What if there was no weekly auction? Every stake is to be selected, and the benchmark never changed. What if you only needed to stake a single time? And what if all these payouts were automatically rolled into your stake and compounded over time? We call this project Staking 2.0 because we feel like this represents a completely new way of thinking about staking. Or rather, this is a way that you can not have to think about staking. Instead, you focus on the data science and you let the profits roll in. And this would have taken our team months to implement if it wasn't for this new protocol that just launched that allowed us to build all of this in a short amount of time in a secure, modular, and flexible way. We just rebuilt Numerai on Erasure.
So here's linear regression. It shows you that with a linear regression on this data set, you end up kind of making no money. So what about machine learning? So here's a basic machine learning model, and this is what it looks like. We don't just trade this machine learning model, of course. We trade the meta model. This is the model created by all of the predictions from Numerai users put together. Now, the thing I didn't know when I started Numerai was whether that would beat just us doing a machine learning model inside of the company. So let's take a look at how the Numerai users perform. At this point, we were just like, well, let's just add more data. This is what it looks like. Did you expect a clap for a back test when you're on your way here? What's the Sharpe ratio of this? He has 2 PhDs in financial economics and mathematical finance. He founded Guggenheim Partners' QIS team, where he managed $13 billion. He was the first head of machine learning at AQR, the largest quant hedge fund in the world. He wrote the book on financial machine learning, and he's the most read author in economics on SSRN. And this year, he received the Quant of the Year award from the Journal of Portfolio Management. And he recently became a scientific advisor to Numerai.
So there are 3 fundamental paradigms of how to organize quantitative research. One is the silo approach, which is the traditional one and the most common one. Essentially, it consists in a company hires multiple teams of researchers. In fact, they are competing with each other for capital within the firm. Then you have the second approach, which is the platform approach. In the platform approach, what you do is you offer a backtesting platform for people to develop investment strategies. And then you have the third approach, which is the tournament approach. The idea of the tournament approach is you take financial data, you prepare, with domain-specific knowledge, you prepare some features, you engineer the features in a way that narrowly define a problem on which all researchers are going to work and cooperate, right? And the advantage of this is that by construction, you prevent backtest overfitting. There is no possible backtest overfitting because the data is obfuscated. The targets in the test set are never shared with the researchers, so the researcher is making submissions of models that they don't really know if they work in the test set. So by construction, overfitting is prevented.
With Erasure, Numerai goes from being a single product for a single hedge fund to being a platform, a protocol that has the power to bring Web3 primitives to every single website on the internet. And we have 3 of them to start with. We have recourse, which is this idea of skin in the game that we've been repeating. By staking on the blockchain and giving someone else the right to burn it, you're able to align incentives. The second is track record. On the blockchain, everything is permanent. This means that you can build a history with public timestamps that you can prove to everyone who's watching that you knew something at a certain point in time. The last one is payments. This is about enabling value exchange on the internet with programmable escrows.
And this is how we get to Erasure Bay. Erasure Bay takes the market primitives of seller staking and buyer griefing to enable a decentralized marketplace for price discovery and transactions for any type of information. But every marketplace needs somewhere to start. In the case of Erasure Bay, while it will work for any type of information, we think that key first use case, the type of information that's screaming for exactly this, is zero-day software vulnerabilities.
Zero-day is a great first example because it appeals to technical people, and technical people can use Web3 technologies. But you can imagine all kinds of other things if you could have staking and griefing on the internet. Imagine you had an eBay page, but on that page, you could grief the seller if you were unhappy with the product that they shipped you. You try to buy something, they sent you something else. Okay, sure, you could return it to them like a normal person, but you could also destroy their money on the blockchain like a futuristic person. And it's not about doing the destruction, it's about the fact that that person won't send you bad stuff because they know you can do that to them. One of the things that we've talked about is how Numerai's transition from this quite specific thing into something general, whereas other projects have started with something general and then kind of faded out.
With Numerai, then Erasure, I've had an interesting kind of progression of my understanding of the opportunity, working with you in the in the beginning with Numerai before Numerai existed and you were doing payouts in Bitcoin, all the way to now this decentralized marketplace. And what's interesting about that progression is that we're talking about many of the same core ideas. We're just realizing how they can be applied to much broader contexts.
What is your kind of thesis about Erasure and NMR, and how do you see it evolving, playing out?
If you think about the professional practice of an investor, the investment management business, there's kind of 2 main areas of activity. You've got insight generation, which is coming up with investment ideas, and then you've got investment execution, which is actually performing the transactions to execute that investment, buying the stock. But with Erasure, we have an opportunity to unbundle those 2 areas of activity where someone can be working only on the insights and selling them on Erasure, and someone can be on the other side doing the transactions, having bought the insights from Erasure. And because you have the market mechanisms for those insights to be priced appropriately, then long-term, in theory, someone should be able to make an investor's living by coming up with the insights wherever they are in the world, and they don't have to run a hedge fund in New York in order to capitalize on the value of their information. And that is a pretty powerful change in the paradigm of how investment is made and how capital is allocated across the economy. Once you step outside of finance and go into the broader realm of information, which happens to be pretty much everything in the world, we start to see how Erasure can become a component for many different kinds of applications, even if the data that you're dealing with is not predictive.
We launched in January working with 0x in a hackathon, and since then have helped about half a dozen other crypto networks, teams like Coda, NewCypher, Dapper Labs, engage thousands of developers from 40 countries. A lot of these teams have now entered grant programs, some of them have raised money, and they're still working full-time on these protocols. And so we're really happy to be working with the team at Numerai on Erasure, really excited to see what people build. And actually, developers can now sign up for the hackathon, which is launching in a few weeks. We're really excited to get started.